So I'll start the recording over there, and then I'll start sharing my screen over here. Oh, screen sharing is disabled there. All right, cool. So then let me just check on this real quick. Okay. Okay, now it's looking good. Awesome. Let me make this smaller and okay. So there we go. Finally, it started. So this week I was planning on going into ROS and the packages in ROS. So if you come into Google and you search up the usual ROS tutorials and you open up the original link, if you remember last time we went over the very first tutorial and kind of like glided through the second one. If you want to go through the second one, you can. It's just that a lot of the commands in here I personally still haven't used like outside of this tutorial. If you want to go through it, feel free. You can do that after the workshop or anything like that. Yeah, but personally, it's good to go through it just cause. But personally, I haven't really used those commands much. But we're going to be moving on to the third one then, and that's the creating a ROS package workshop. And basically right after this, so after we go through the building a ROS package and the creating a ROS package workshop, we're gonna have all of the ROS basics that we need. And then we'll finally start going into all of the higher level, like actually programming stuff. Because the one right after that is nodes. And that's like the first step of like building the actual autonomous system. And then as well as topics, those two go together. And then we'll probably skip a few of these and come down here to publishers and subscribers. There's two versions of it. We'll probably do the Python one. Maybe we'll go through that one as well. I don't know. We'll see what happens for next week. But yeah, so this workshop would be like the last workshop for learning like just like the basic knowledge of how ROS works. Yeah, so let's open it up. We come here. Yeah, so this tutorial talks about making a ROS package with catkin and stuff like that. So this just tells you here what makes up a catkin package. And if I open up a terminal over here, if it lets me grab the terminal, just put that up there. Okay. In here, so like if I type in ls like normal, we see how we have like all these folders. So what this is saying is that you have a folder named my package, and in there you have two files. One is a package.xml and one is a cmakelist.txt. And if you have these two files, then you have a ROS package. And then this down here just showing you like an example of how a workspace might look like. So you might have like a main big folder, like a workspace folder. So like if you see here, I have like actually let's do this one here. I have like a catkin underscore workspace folder. And in there, you'll have like a source folder and some other folders. So like if I change directory into this folder and I do ls, you'll see here I have a source folder. And if I go into that source folder and I do ls, this one only has a cmakelist.txt. So here you see the source folder, cmakelist.txt, and then you should have a package or some sort of package.xml file here. So I'm assuming that this catkin workspace isn't a completed package, like it's not a completed folder. So let's probably not use this one as an example then. If we go into this workspace instead, and we go to source. Now we see a cmake list.txt, right? And here we don't see, so we went into this workspace and we went into source, right? So we went into workspace and source, and then we have a cmake list.txt right there. And, but we don't have a package, and then just this is just like the general outline of how things look. I'll get into like how to make these in a minute, but like you see here, there's a bunch of other packages. So like if I went into um, like let's do the RoboSub one for example. If I went into the RoboSub folder and then I did ls and then I went into any of these packages like robo nodes and then I did ls again, now we have the cmake list and the package.xml. So like you just need to go in a few folders, but eventually you should find this package.xml file somewhere, and you can have multiple of those. So like if I go back to here, like I'll have like, this is probably a ROS package, this one's a ROS package, the RoboSub's a ROS package. So like I can have a bunch of packages in this main package. But that was just like the general, this general starting, just like what it looks like, and then now we can finally get into actually making one. So so it wants me to go to that catkin workspace folder. Let's do what it says, and let's see what happens. If you guys remember from, if I go back from this first tutorial back here, after we went through installing ROS and doing all of that, at the very bottom, it wanted us to make this workspace, right? So we did make directory, and we made this, and then we ran catkin make. And we could do this again if you want. And we could, doesn't really matter. I think I'll just leave it just because it's the same thing. Let me type in clear. So like we made this catkin workspace folder, and we ran. 1 second. Let me get this guy a link. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So we went into this workspace. We made this folder, and then we ran catkin make, and it made all of these like build files and double files and stuff like that. And now if we go back to the one that we're doing, so this folder I was just going to say was from an earlier tutorial. And most of these tutorials will do that. So like one of these tutorials, like this publisher subscriber tutorial, it might make you use some sort of folder or something from a previous tutorial. And if it does do that, you'll probably have to just like click through these and see which tutorial did it come from, what do I have to do to get it and all that. But for now, we'll just go into this one. And now we're all the way down here. So it says you should have created this folder here. We did create it right here. It wants me to go into the source folder, so I'll do that. We're here, and it only has this in it. And now it wants me to run catkin create package. So basically make this a catkin package, or make a catkin package. Beginner tutorials. So name it beginner tutorials, and then put these things into it. So like Python, C++, and standard messages. We'll go into like what these are. I think if not later today, I'll go over it in like a different workshop. But this is it's literally just Python, C++, and standard messages is just like integers, arrays, strings, just like all the standard message types. I guess I went into it now. But yeah, so if I go back actually, the beginner tutorials, I thought I saw that. Yeah, so I see it right here. And if I go into there, it is a folder, but the problem is it's in the wrong space. It should be in the source. So So like if you see here, you're supposed to go into source and then create a package, but um, mine you see is right here and it's not in the source. So I think I'll just remove this entire thing and then I'll go into source and then now I'll run this code again. So I'll grab this line and I'll throw it in here. And then now if I do ls, it did make this beginner tutorials file in source. So all I did was just copy paste that line. And then now if I go into here, it has all of the stuff that it should have. Yeah, okay. And then after you run that and you get all four of these files, so you should have a source file, the package, the CMake, and the include. You can go back to the beginning of the workspace. So you go back to catkin and then you can run your catkin make again. And this like, how do I explain it? Basically, it just like sets up this package. So like after you make this beginner tutorials, it's not really connected with ROS yet, but after you run catkin make, it includes everything together. So like now if I want to run like a ROS command, it'll be able to find this package. It's a little bit confusing. I'm sure if we all like sat and read through every single one of these lines, it would explain it better, but I'm trying to rush through it for you guys just so you can actually, if you just want to get stuff done and you don't care much about you don't care much about like what's actually going on. Yeah, okay, and then it also wants me to do devil setup.bash. I might as well just because. Okay. Yeah, so now we have that. It wants me. So then this is another ROS command you can run. I mean, it's a command I rarely use it. So like it tells you what it depends on. So like if you remember earlier up here, we said make this beginner tutorial and give it the standard messages in Python and C++. And then now there's a command that tells you beginner tutorials, what does it have in it basically. But I mean, there's other ways you can find this information as well. ROS pack, I guess it's quick. For me, it's just like an extra line that just isn't worth memorizing, but go for it if you want to. Yeah, and then now that you can do your ROS change directory as well to beginner tutorials. So like if you see this ROS change directory, it just changed straight to the beginner tutorial package from like the catkin workspace. And I mean, that could be useful for me. I kind of already know where all my folders are. So it's just typing like 2 extra letters and then just pressing tab. So, I mean, if you want to use these commands, go for it. I don't know. I'm still not a huge fan of them, but feel free to use them. Yeah, so then it wants you to run cat package.xml. So let's copy that and let's run that. And it shows you this huge file. Basically, did it just show you the entire file? It looks like it did just show you the entire file. So cat package.xml, it printed all of this, right? But if I go nano package.xml, you guys remember nano just lets you edit stuff, and I open it up, it's exactly what the cat thing printed. So I'm assuming the cat command just prints out like everything in this package. But yeah, so this was all auto-generated. You can see down here, like it says, like ROS C++, ROS Pi, standard messages, these all came with it. Let me just do that, okay. These all came with it because those are what we started with. And if I had put in something extra, like, I don't know an example, but if I put in something extra, there would have been one extra line here, an extra one here, and another one here. So you don't have to worry about actually coding all of this stuff. But one thing that's interesting up here is you have name beginner underscore tutorials, and this is the name of your package. So like up here, you can see my package is beginner underscore tutorials, and then this has that same name. So you don't want to touch this. So these first like 4 lines you don't want to touch, but this line right here, where it says the beginner tutorials package, you can feel free to come right into here and put any sort of description you want. So like I can say like ROS workshop. What number is this? See, we had the 2 Arduinos, we had the Linux, so this would be like number 5, right? Like I could just put description like ROS workshop number 5. And then in here, if you're planning on like publishing this package to like GitHub or something and you want people to have your information, you can put like your name in here. So like my name isn't AUV Club Laptop. There's my name. Maybe you want to throw an underscore in there just cause. Like you can go through and you can change stuff in here. You can feel free to do that. Don't want to waste too much time on that. But yeah, and then there's other lines you can run. I mean, there isn't like, this doesn't really do anything. Like you can run it if you want. But I mean, it just prints out some stuff for you. It just prints out like what this package, it prints out what like ROS pack depends one. It just prints out what ROS dependencies are. So like if you want to run Python, you have to have standard messages. Like you have to have like integer or something in there, and you have to have all this other stuff as well. But you don't have to worry about that. I'm gonna press clear for a second, just so we start up on a fresh page. Like this isn't exactly very useful. It's just there just cause. And then same with this. Like if I ran this line, it would just print all of this out. There's no point running it over there as well. Yeah, okay. And then this is exactly what I was just going over with you guys. So like in the package, so you see this package.xml. When you go into here, you have all of these lines like name, version, description, and all of that. And it tells you can edit all of these, and you can put in any sort of license or whatever and this information down here or up here. But that's not very important. So we can skip over all of that basically. Right? Yeah, we can skip. Oops. We can skip over all of that. And then this is like the entire, like, if I go back into package, if I deleted, see how this line like starts with a less than sign and ends with a greater than sign? Or is it the other way around? No, less than and greater than sign. So over here, this is basically in this file format, this means a comment. So if you wanted this, let's imagine like this was a line of code. If you wanted this to actually work, what you would do is you would come in and delete that, and then you could delete those two dashes as well, and then this would become like an actual line of code, and it would actually try running this. But obviously we don't want it to do that, so I'll put that stuff back. But another thing that this part right here is saying is you could actually, if you wanted, since all of these are comments, everything from like here down to here is a comment, you could just come in and delete like every single line here, and you could just be left with these 20 lines right there. Just if you want it to be like, if you want it to be neat and you want to see like what this file actually does, because it really only does this, like every line here is just useless. You could go through and delete it, but you could do that on right after after the workshop, after you make the file and everything like that. But that was all there was for workshop, for lesson 3 or whatever, tutorial 3. It's just making this one package and going through and seeing like how things are organized. Is there any question on that so far? that kind of makes sense. It was just like just going through the basics of like what a package looks like.
Can can you explain cat can make one more time, please?
Cat can make? Yeah, I can try. To be honest, I'm not like super familiar with the actual. Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah, it isn't here. I'm not super familiar with like what the actual command fully does. All I know is that like after you make a new package like this, so like over here where we did cat can create package, I know that you have to go back to the main folder. So like go back to here and run
The
cat
first
can make.
folder?
Yeah, so go back to this folder over here.
Okay.
So you have to go back 2 folders basically right here. And then you run cat can make here. And I'm assuming just what it does is it updates the build file and the devil file. And yeah, so it says right here, if you like read the little description, it says it has been built, it has created a similar structure. Yeah, so I'm assuming that.
Or if you want me,
Sure, yeah,
I can kind of say it.
sure, go for it.
So the XML file that gets created and the packages inside the what are they called again?
Beginner
Packages you make?
tutorials, package
Yeah, no,
XML.
but what they do is they basically like tell ROS like, okay, this is all the scripts and stuff that's going on in this package, and particularly if you have C files, like C++ files, and it's the messages, the custom messages we can make.
Yeah.
When you run cat make, it goes in there, it checks, and it goes, oh, okay, you're using this like C++ files and this message. I think it also compiles anything you've done for C++. So basically, it gets everything ready
Yeah.
for you, so that way when you try running it, it'll work fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you tried to like before I ran cat can make, if I tried to do ROS change directory and I tried to go to this beginner tutorial, it wouldn't have worked because this beginner tutorial I don't think was registered with ROS yet. So I think whenever you go here and you run cat can make, it registers it. Is that correct, Ricardo? I'm not 100% certain on that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things it does. It adds it to
Okay.
all the directories, so it knows it exists. So the other thing you kind of have to do when you've done run cat make is rerun the source part of it. So I remember the source slash
Yeah, this guy right here.
yeah, that one. Yeah. So basically that setup, that bash is a file that keeps track of like all the packages you've made and anything like that. So when you try running it, it knows it exists. And cat can make will like update it, make sure that it's added all the new stuff that you put in as packages.
Yeah, and if that's still confusing, if you search it up, I'm sure there's a much better explanation for what exactly it does. We just know like the general gist of how it works, basically.
It just organizes everything.
Yeah, sure. You could just
Yeah.
think of it like that. Yeah. Yeah, but we finished the third one, and perfect. That was exactly half the time. So all we have to do is go through this fourth one, actually building a ROS package, and we're already ready to start like the real ROS programming stuff, and we can actually get through to the higher level fun stuff right after this. So let's click into here and let's see, how long is it? That's it? Okay, perfect, awesome. So it looks like it's gonna be pretty short. So it wants me to source everything. I don't know if there's much point, but I can do it just because it wants me to. So you see here it says your distro, and then here it says kinetics. So if I tried to run this, this wouldn't work, right? Because I'm not using kinetic, I'm using melodic. So just watch out for that and make sure you put in the actual version we're using. And then there you go, you're already done for that. And then it wants me to use cat can make, but I already did it for this one, so I'm not gonna bother. So we can already skip that line as well. And then it wants me to make a build. Um, Interesting. I think it's telling you exactly Yeah, okay, it's telling you this won't work. Okay, there you go. It's a bit confused there. Yeah, so if you read the note right here, it tells you running these commands doesn't work. So be careful when you're going through these. Yeah, and the same down here, it says this command won't work as well. So don't run these. But, okay, so I see what it's trying to do. So it's saying every time you run catkin make, basically what it does is it's kind of running like all of these commands. I think this is what it's trying to show you. And it's also running like these commands as well, I'm assuming. But you can just run catkin make and you don't have to worry about all of that. Just it does everything for you. You don't have to go through any of this. Is there any input you have on any of this, Ricardo, or should we just skip through it? Because it doesn't look like there's much that's important.
I mean, honestly, I didn't go through this one because it didn't seem as necessary.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Same. So you can probably, using catkin make is you just use catkin make. You don't have to worry about that. There's actually a link here that says catkin make. I'm sure if you click it, it might give you some more information on exactly what it does, just if you're interested in that. But I'm just going to go over here and, oh, that's an interesting command. So see how we're in this folder here? And when I type in ls, it shows me these 3 folders. If I don't want to do change directory source and then type in ls, what I can do is I can go back and then in here, I can just do ls source and it'll show me what's in the source folder. That's an interesting command that didn't go through in the 3rd workshop. So just might help to have around. That's kind of useful, that's nice. But yeah, so it wants me to go into this workspace. I'm already here. It wants me to run catkin make. I already ran it, but I can do it anyway. So catkin make, I already ran it, so it's not really going to do anything. It's just going to write a few lines and then say done. Yeah. But it's telling me that you should see a huge output that looks like this. And that is exactly what we see. We see all of these, and we see all of those, and we see all of that. And that's literally all that it says. Then it says type in ls. Sure, why not? Type in ls. Whoops. And you see those 3 folders, and I'm assuming that that's just trying to tell you that you have a fully defined catkin folder now. So if you are able to get here and you're able to run this command and you see all of this and you do ls and you see all 3 folders here, you have a working like ROS catkin folder package thing. You have a working ROS folder and you're ready to actually get started on the real like actual like programming tutorials and stuff like that. So I have some time. I could go into what nodes are. I could just show you guys like the outline of it. Was there any input you had on this, Ricardo? It looks like it's literally just trying to show you what your final result should be.
No, it's fine. Except the big thing is that compiling stuff. I know if you're working on like a Raspberry Pi and you're doing this, that catkin make step is a lot longer because it's compiling a lot of different stuff, especially that first time you run it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, basically, like the commands and everything are still the same with that as well. Yeah, but that's everything for that. After you do that, you're done with the first 4. You're, what is that, 4 out of 20? 20% done? Okay. 20% done with learning ROS. You got through all of the basic knowledge that you definitely will need for the following ones. Yeah, because like in following tutorials, like maybe even like state machine tutorials or stuff like that, whenever you go into this beginner tutorial thing, you might actually need to edit this package.xml. Like we have some custom message files. I can go over like what those are, but basically like you need to add those into here, and there's like certain things you need to do. So it's good to know like these like files are set up basically. I could go into, should I? Maybe that's too much. What do you guys think? Should we just call it quits early, or do you want me to go over like a general idea of what nodes are, or what are we thinking? What are we thinking? Are we tired? We want to call it early for today, or what? You down for anything? Okay. Okay, well, in that case, I could really quickly just go over like the basics of the node, and then just call it quits from there. And then next time I'll go into what they like fully really are. Hopefully I don't overdo it right now. So the node right here is extremely important. The nodes, messages, topics, all three of these are extremely important. And this is basically like how our robot communicates with like all of its programming, like all of its code. So essentially how it works is you're going to have multiple different codes. You're going to have a lot of different codes for both RoboSub and for ASME. So you're going to have like, let's say, here, let me give you guys an example so it's not super confusing. Go into here, go into here. Doesn't really matter ASME or RoboSub. Let's do ASME this time. I think I did RoboSub last time. Go into here, go into source. Okay, that's okay. So we have all of these guys. So like you can see here, there's a bunch of different codes in here. Let me do clear so it's not ugly. You can see here, there's a bunch of different codes in here, right? So like there's one that's named like lidar.py, one that's named cameras.py, and then like sensors.py. So there's different codes for a bunch of different things. So like, let's take like this one, for example, like cameras.py. This is basically like the whole computer vision code. And this code like has all of the computer vision stuff in it. It'll take in the camera feed, and it'll run like it'll run its cascade file or its algorithm or whatever you want to call it, and it'll process the video, and then it'll put like a little rectangle over where it sees the object, and then that'll be like a whole code on its own just doing that. And this code itself is a node. So just think of it like this code is a node. And then you come over here, lidar.py. This lidar.py, this one's for ASME, by the way. Lidar is like, Gary went over in one of his. I'm thinking of doing another sensors tutorial just for both clubs, just so we know like what sensors we're dealing with. But lidar, just as a quick general thing, is it's basically, it shoots a laser and it spins really quickly. So it just shoots a laser and it spins, and it tells you like the distance to nearby objects. So we have this cameras.py, and that's a node, and it has its own code. And then this lidar.py is another node, and it takes the data from the lidar and does a bunch of stuff, and then it prints out like where it sees an object, and that's another node. And then just looking at those two, you would have those two nodes, and then you would have like a main node. And then imagine that as like your state machine, like the brain of the robot. So like you have this middle brain of the robot, and it has like all of like the description of what the robot does and everything like that. And then you have like another small node that's cameras, and another small node that's lidar. And the lidar basically sends data to the main node, and the cameras send data to the main node. And then those datas they're not called data, they're called messages. It's like I'll send you a message like where I see something, and cameras will send you a message like the line is over here. And I'll go more into it next time. So they send the messages to a certain topic, so they publish to the topic, and then that main brain node subscribes to that topic, and it can pull out data anytime it wants. That's like the basic gist of how it works. So like you can have a bunch of different nodes. Like for ASME, we might have like 6 or 7 nodes or something like that. Each one will have like its own special code in it, and they'll all be publishing messages to a bunch of different topics. And then all of them will be subscribing to a bunch of different topics, and they'll be taking in a bunch of data and then sharing a bunch of data. And that's just how the entire system works. And we'll go into that next time. I'll try to like show an example from both ASME and from RoboSub, but they're exactly the same thing, essentially. It's just like the sensors and the actual competition that's different. But yeah, did that confuse people? Sorry, I tried to make it kind of simple. Did that make sense or no? Was that super confusing? You got it? Okay. You got it as well? Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah, well, we'll go into the actual tutorial next time. It shows you like how to run a node and like how to make one. And then, the tutorial with the turtle thing that we were doing the other time, we'll start with those, yeah. Yeah, so like there's a node, like for example, by the way, if you remember last time I had like 2 windows. On one window, I was pressing the keys, and on the other window, the turtle was moving. So like this one where the turtle is moving is one node, and then the one where I'm pressing the keys and it's taking in my input is another node. And then this is telling this node what I'm clicking. So like whenever I click the keys, it registers it, and then it publishes to this guy and tells this guy, oh, he published this, move the turtle like that. But if that's confusing, don't worry about it. I'll try to go over it and give you guys some actual examples to follow along with in the next workshop. Is there any questions on that? I'm thinking of calling it a little bit early, and then we'll go into the actual fun stuff next time. We're good? Did you want to say like a closing remark or something, Richard?
No, I think I'm pretty good. It was a good workshop overall.
Thanks.
We'll just follow up next week with what we have left over. So, thank you everyone for coming, and yeah, if you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out to Aren or anyone else from the board. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. When will this video be posted? It'll be posted. I could get it up because I have to upload it to like 3 different YouTube channels. So I'm sure I can send the link out within maybe an hour and a half. But yeah, okay. I'll stop sharing. No problem. Okay, cool. Stop the share and